friends, and welcome back to a very special month that we're going to dedicate to early American cooking and some history. So for this week, since we're so close to July 4th, it would be totally remiss of us if we did not start out with Thomas Jefferson, who is a principal author of the U.S. Constitution. So we're going to look into what he was eating at his home in Monticello, and one of them is really odd that we're going to do this week that I had never heard of, didn't even know you could do this, but we're going to go ahead and give it a try. Now, we know that Thomas Jefferson wrote some of the most powerful words ever put to paper. And two of the phrases, "we the people," and that we have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, were very powerful ideas. On the other hand, we know that he was also a controversial figure, as he was penning those very words, he also owned slaves who during his lifetime would have never benefited from the Constitution that he put out there in the first place. The Constitution also did not extend to women. So even as these were very powerful ideas that were put out there, they were still extremely limited in their scope as to who they applied to. However, anytime you put very powerful ideas like that out into the world, it's only going to grow and spark in the hearts of many, many people who are oppressed, subjugated, and in need of hope and freedom. So while the words themselves were penned by a very controversial figure who did not mean for them to be used by everyone in his own country, those words could not be contained and were therefore used as a rallying cry not only for slaves who were wanting their freedom, but also for women who were demanding the right to vote and exercise their political activism. So not so much in his honor, but in honor of the words he penned that changed the course of history in so many instances and in so many people's lives all throughout the decades, not just 1776. We're going to be looking at some food and some history and see what it was all about. So stay tuned for that and let's see how it tastes.
Pause here to write down what you'll need to follow along. Let's go ahead and try to get as prepared as we possibly can for this monolith of a recipe. So first off, I went ahead and chopped up my mushrooms into fairly large pieces, and then got all of my other ingredients such as the milk and the nutmeg and even the asparagus prepared before we actually started cooking. Now you're going to go ahead and put your chicken in a large pot, cover it completely with boiling water, then let it set with the lid on for 15 minutes. After your 15 minutes are done, go ahead and strain and reserve the liquid from the chicken. Wipe out your pot, return the chicken to it, sprinkle it lightly with salt, pour your milk on it, and then enough of your reserved liquid to cover it completely. You can go ahead and get rid of the rest of the soaking liquid. Go ahead and bring that to a simmer over a low heat, cover it, and cook it for about 30 minutes. Now you're going to remove your chicken from the pot once again, removing the broth but reserving it. Now return 2 cups of the cooking broth, your cream, your nutmeg, mace if you're using it, but you can also add more nutmeg if you can't find it, and season it with salt to taste. Jefferson loved food of all kinds, including large amounts of meat and poultry and seafood, oysters and wild game, but also fresh vegetables from his enormous garden that he had. Go ahead and bring that to a simmer, and in the meantime, you're going to do something kind of weird. Knead together your butter and your flour. Drop little bits into your milk and go ahead and whisk that until smooth. Add your mushrooms and chicken, bring back to a simmer, stir in your wine, and then cook until the mushrooms are just done. This is just a tiny fraction of what Jefferson would have had at his table. According to a former Monticello slave, Isaac Jefferson, he said that Mr. Jefferson would have at least 8 dishes at dinner, even if there was no one at the table but himself. Now we're going to move on to something I'd never done before. We're going to fry asparagus. So first we're going to whisk together the flour and the salt, make a small well in the center. In a separate bowl, mix together your egg, water, and melted butter until smooth, and then pour it into the flour. Gradually whisk both together until completely smooth. Set aside for at least 15 minutes. According to the cookbook, Jefferson mentioned this in his personal notes enough to suggest that fried asparagus was pretty commonplace at Monticello. In a simmering pot, go ahead and blanch your asparagus for about 4 minutes. You want to keep them very green. In the meantime, go ahead and heat up your lard or your peanut oil, whichever one you're going to fry in. Drop the asparagus into your batter, stir to coat, and then go ahead and let them into your fat. Now, of course, you can do this 1 or 2 at a time so that you have each one of them separated, but I kind of like the idea of a type of vegetable fritter, so I went ahead and just put little clumps in. If you like, you can also salt them very generously right before you serve them. And now you have a meal that is quite possibly fit for a president.
There, finally got it done. Whew. But let's go ahead and hurry up and try this asparagus because no one likes cold fried food. Okay, you could argue that everything's better fried. So I'm kind of not surprised. This kind of seems to me like in the tradition of a particular Japanese style. Dipping, you know, and I think it's tempura. I'm probably saying that wrong. I know it's tempura, but I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. But it really does remind me of that.
Yeah.
You know, the batter and then frying. And I actually really like it. Of course, I mean, like I said, it's fried.
Everything's better fried.
Yeah. Now, of course, you could drastically cut down your fat and the health issues that are inherent in this little piece of asparagus by doing this in your air fryer. We just wanted to do it
more traditional.
Yeah, well, just strictly historically accurate. Just this one time, just to see what it would have tasted like. But of course, it is really good. Yeah. But it's probably a cholesterol nightmare. Don't eat it every day.
It's probably still better for you than French fries. I mean, it's got asparagus in it.
Yeah, you're getting a little something green.
You're getting some green in there.
Okay. Now, let's try this chicken fricassee.
Fricasee.
I'm gonna try it with a mushroom.
Wow.
Oh, okay. I was afraid the nutmeg might be a little overpowering, but the nutmeg is perfect. And now this is also a cholesterol nightmare. You know what? Let me just put this out there. This entire meal is probably a diabetic's or a heart patient's worst thing that they could probably eat. Because we've got lots of lard. We also had butter in the batter. This chicken was soaked in milk and heavy cream and butter. So, and I mean, that's just how they cooked at that time.
Yeah.
You know, so it wasn't unusual for them, but it's a little bit more unusual for us now.
It would be more of like it's a special treat.
Yeah, it's not something you would eat every day.
In regular doses, I don't think it'd be like, I mean, as much work as it was, I don't know if it's something you'd want to do on a regular basis even then. But
no,
for a special treat, it is a special treat. Like it does have, like it's a lot different than what I expected when I tasted it.
Yeah, it really is.
it's a really good different,
Yeah.
and it's something that, like, you know, would be great for, like, a family get-together or a holiday, like a special meal for a special occasion.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, but you can't, I mean, if you're wanting to come home from a long day at work, you're not going to make this dinner.
No.
And this took hours. I mean,
Yeah.
it will never feel that way because I edit so concisely when I'm, you know, showing how I cook. This literally took hours.
Yeah.
Literally. I mean, it's so many steps that you have to take. So, yeah, this is just a special meal just to show what historically that they would have eaten. So if you want to do that, I mean, I know there's some parts of the country that are still in quarantine and lockdown. So if you have time and you want to take your mind off of everything that's going on for a few hours and then just kind of like, you know, just focus on something else for a little bit, this would be the perfect meal because...
And I'm sure there's other ways to do it to speed it up, too.
Oh,
you know,
definitely.
You can get some pre-cooked chicken kind of frozen. Or boneless or whatever. And,
yeah,
you
could shortcut this easy, but I didn't want to for this one.
No.
Yeah.
But...
So, no, and then here's another point, too. This would not have been the only thing on the table.
No.
So, you know, when... In the 1700s, and Jefferson was rich by, you know, the standards of the day, when a rich landowner sat down at his table for dinner, there were multiple courses and there would have been multiple foods to choose from.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe it wouldn't have been as much of a cholesterol nightmare given the fact that he may have had lots of other vegetables and things like that to choose from.
Other fruits and stuff.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is just kind of like just a small example of what would have been on the table, but not all encompassing.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of the cookbook itself, now me and you, we've been to Monticello.
Yeah.
Thoroughly enjoyed it, absolutely loved it. I mean, if you do get to go, I mean, I wouldn't go now. Don't go until...
Give it a year.
Yeah, wait till there's a vaccine. Don't be going traveling all over Virginia right now. But, yeah, it was... If you get the chance in the future, it's a wonderful place. Absolutely loved it. And they tell a lot of really interesting history. You know, a lot of things that you wouldn't, probably wouldn't have been taught in school.
Yeah, probably.
You know, about his life and about how some of his divergent families that he had that has been proven by genetics. That was pretty interesting. I mean, they go into all of that, and it's really cool to see what happened to that side of the family and how their history was affected and how his, I guess what you would call his legitimate, you know, like through his actual marriage, what those children ended up. So it's really cool to see the two split families and to see what happened.
Even just seeing the house.
Oh, the house is awesome.
It's, if you like architecture, if you like interesting things, because Jefferson was definitely
an interesting man.
He liked to try weird stuff. And you know, there's some skylights, some of the first like kind of things like that.
Yeah.
The stairwells are weird.
Oh, he hated staircases. Hated them. That's one thing we learned at Monticello. The staircases were like this.
Straight up and down.
And I feel so sorry for the servants because if you're
had to go through there.
Carrying something, I mean, it's a death trap. But he thought staircases were a waste of space, and so he tried to compare. I mean, it just crazy stuff you'll learn.
But it's definitely
at
something
Monticello.
worth seeing, I think.
Yeah, and we loved it. We spent the whole day there. In terms of this cookbook, now ironically, I did not get this at Monticello because it was a little pricey. So I waited and went home and I got this off eBay for just a few dollars. So pro tip, go to the gift shops, get a cheap souvenir, and then go home and get the expensive stuff on eBay because that's where you're going to save the money. Now, in terms of this cookbook, I would highly recommend it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's the most of, like, I'd say the first third of the book, if not a little more, is the history of Monticello and the Jefferson family. So, and kind of like how they would have lived day to day in Monticello. Fascinating stuff, how they cooked, what they would have cooked and why they would have done certain techniques. Really fascinating. And the recipes are not only historical to the time period, but they're actual family recipes. So this isn't just like, oh, well, we know they had chicken and mushrooms in the 1700s. No, this recipe was actually in one of the notations of his journals and stuff like that. So this is something that he actually ate in his home in Monticello. So really interesting. Yeah. All the recipes have been vetted. All the recipes are either noted in his own hand or his children or grandchildren. So it's just really cool. Really enjoyed it, and it was cheap on eBay. So you're not gonna now. Like I said, none of these recipes are gonna be a quick night.
Oh no!
No, none of them. These are historical recipes.
They took a crew of people preparing for dinner.
Oh heck yeah! I mean, it wasn't just one chef in Monticello kitchen. I shouldn't even say. I mean, it was slaves. Yeah. That he had. So he had multiple slaves and servants in the kitchen, all doing this shared work. So whereas with just me, oh my gosh, it took so long. But anyway, but a lot of them is worth the effort. Yeah. So. Like
I said, for something special, for a special occasion, and it's something, you just have the time and you want to one time.
Yeah, go for it. I don't think,
definitely kind of fun to try.
I don't want to say you won't regret it, because you might be cursing my name after you try one.
I didn't know it was this hard.
Do like your fourth load of dishes. You might kind of never watch my channel again, but I hope you would at least, at least I warned you. I'll put it that way. It will take you forever. But in terms of the food, this is great.
It's very good.
I'm going to give it a 5-star on both recipes. And as far as the cookbook, I'm giving it 5 stars too, because you can't beat historical accuracy to this level.
Wow, cool.
So we're going to go ahead and finish our cholesterol nightmare. And I know, and enjoy it. And stay tuned, because we're going to keep on our track for American early cooking history, but we're going to have a few surprises for you. So it's going to be fun times. So thanks for watching this week. We'll see you next week. Bye.
If you like this video, make sure to hit the like button and hit the subscribe button for future videos. In the meantime, here are 2 videos you may enjoy. Thanks for watching.